I'm Dr. John Harding. I'd like to welcome you to our program. We have as our guest tonight Father Paul O'Connell. I'd like to welcome him to Shrewsbury and to SPAC.
Thank you very much.
He's not long here in Shrewsbury. He's the pastor at St. Mary's Church in Shrewsbury and recently from Christ the King in Worcester. And he teaches at Assumption, Marriage and the Family, and he's worked with the Marriage Tribunal for a long time in Worcester. And our program is about Christmas, and we have, in this day and age, I think, in America, maybe lost track of the real meaning of Christmas in lots of ways. And I think some of the most pleasant, in fact, probably the most pleasant memory of my whole childhood is Christmas. And it was all about toys when I was a little boy, and I think that's very good, and I don't think that should be changed or has to be changed. But I do always remember that always, as a part of my Christmas as a child, was the manger scene, the nativity scene. And in school, we heard about the infant Jesus and Bethlehem and the three wise men, and it was all mixed together. And I do have to admit, and hope Father won't hold this against me as I'm in his parish, the toys were more important. But as we grow up, I think we have that fond memory, but the emphasis shifts, hopefully shifts. I think we have a lot of adults that haven't grown up, and I think some of this orgy of present buying and giving and this compulsory sending of 150 Christmas cards and round of parties and decorations. And I hear over and over again from friends and peers and people that Christmas has become a dread holiday and they don't look forward to it, and they are glad when it's over and relieved when it's over. And I think we've lost something. And so I'd like to really ask Father to comment on Christmas tonight, the story of Christmas, if he would. And teach me and teach us something.
Well, I'd be delighted. And just picking up on a comment that you just made a moment ago, that maybe some adults haven't grown up. And but I'd like to turn that around and maybe say that maybe we've grown up too much and gone perhaps in the wrong direction when it comes to the celebration of Christmas, and haven't kept that childlike atmosphere which sometimes has caught on to the real spirit of Christmas, as opposed to some of us who run around as adults buying the last-minute Christmas present and getting terribly frustrated with the card sending and things of that kind. And I agree with you. I hear it every day in terms of people saying, oh, I'll be glad when it's over. And I'm saying to myself, I love Christmas because basically it's a celebration of faith. And when you go to the Scriptures and begin to see how God's plan has come to the point of development and has come to the point of fruition, the fulfillment of all the prophecies of the Old Testament, and basically the fulfillment of all the things that God's people had yearned for and hoped for. Now, quite obviously, it's always easy in hindsight to put all those pieces together and to see where the prophecies were being fulfilled one by one, the prophecies of Isaiah that said that Jesus would be born of the Virgin, and things of that kind. And but we have to, I think, kind of regain the understanding and the atmosphere of the child who can really perhaps feel and experience love, and hopefully God's love, if they're taught the real meaning of Christmas as a child. If we could just kind of regenerate that and cut off from our adult life all of this need that we have to fulfill what modern day commercial Christmas tells us is the celebration, namely that we do have to do all this buying and sending of cards and things of that kind. The real meaning of Christmas, quite obviously, is God loves us so much that he sent Jesus into our midst, born of the Virgin Mary, as was foretold by the prophets, and who came with a great message, namely that God continues to love us in this our own time. I love the story of Christmas, and I love the nativity scenes that we see spring up in our homes and even in stores and in some commons throughout the nation where people have not obliterated that rite, whereby we can see just that simple family of Mary and Joseph, celebrating God's love and God's gift to them of Jesus in our world. It's a simple setting, quite obviously, and yet it has had the ability to stir up and to stimulate faith in millions of people since that prophecy was fulfilled and since Jesus came into our midst. Yeah.
Well, he was the only human being to stop time, BC, and after he was born. And here we are almost 2,000 years later. And I saw a Christmas card a couple of years ago, the One Solitary Life card with the story of Jesus, how he never wrote a book and never held public office and never owned great land holdings or anything, and yet he's the greatest man in history. And I saw this Christmas the statue of Santa praying at the crib, the infant Jesus. And I think this is maybe the great connection between this truly spiritual Christmas and then the Santa for the children and the adults. And I put that in my office this Christmas, and because I thought it just made a statement in this day and age about, yes, Santa is good for the children and for the adults too, but yet the focus, I think, should be the infant Jesus, and this beginning of, we're in the year 1993, but it began with his birth this year that we're in.
Sure. And you can see how the story has been perverted, or the celebration of the story has been perverted over the course of the centuries, and even with Santa Claus. But I think we can use even an occasion such as watching and observing that little statue there of Santa Claus and the babe, and talk about St. Nicholas and what St. Nicholas did to basically celebrate his faith that flowed from belief in the babe of Bethlehem, which was that he was noted for his gift giving to the poor and to the alienated in his society. And he was noted for that, for the gift giving, for the giving. And if we could just teach children as well as adults that Christmas basically is a celebration of the gift of God's love to us, and that we celebrate that most by the way we share gift with others. And
I think we think of giving gifts to each other, and yet it is the birthday of Jesus. And the gifts, if you go to a birthday party, the gifts are not given to those in attendance at the party, but they're given to those for that person that the party's for. And I think probably the greatest gift we could give to Jesus on any Christmas would be how we are, because he sees right through this tent that we wear, and I think how our soul is and how we truly are inside in our heart and our soul. And I think if we're pleasing to God in our heart and our soul, that's the greatest gift we could give to Jesus.
Absolutely.
I had a great, just before it leaves me, I'm getting older here and thoughts fly out of my head, but the three wise men were Gentiles, the Magi. And I've been looking at nativity scenes, different places, homes and churches, and it seems to me that at least one of the three wise men, the kings, the Magi, has an earring in his ear. And I should think that would be a great hope to parents of teenagers nowadays, that here was one of the kings bearing gift for the infant Jesus, and he had an earring in, so that they shouldn't get too upset by this or shook by that. I think Jesus is always teaching us, and here even at the Nativity was teaching perhaps parents of teenagers for the year 1993 and beyond.
Well, good luck to you if you can get that lesson across to parents, to have them believe that.
You know, it's like, I've got my fingers
I'm not
crossed.
sure.
Well, we learned.
But
We
that's
learned.
right.
So it's
Absolutely.
possible.
Well, now people who do things differently sometimes have a message for us too, and they want us to listen to it, just as the babe of Bethlehem wants us to listen to the message that God loves us, and that's Jesus is God's gift to us, and hopefully we, in believing in that and taking Jesus into our life, can bring that as gift to others, you know. And it's in giving our concern for the poor and the underprivileged and those who are weak in faith or hope or a celebration of love basically is going to be the sign of whether we're true believers in the babe of Bethlehem and the message that we see from that scene of Joseph and Mary. I always remember that famous little incident that happened in Worcester. It made the papers a few years ago, where this young child got up on Christmas morning, and in his excitement he went through all of these presents that were surrounding that Christmas tree in his home, and there were dozens of them, and he'd just rip off the paper and pull out the gift and toss it aside and rip up another one. And finally, when he had completed the last one, he looked at his mother and he said, "Is that all?" And the mother at that point became very cognizant of the fact that the child had not caught on to the real message of Christmas. She quickly bundled him up in warm clothing and took him over to Worcester Central Catholic School, where the bishop was holding his Christmas dinner, and had him observe and actually serve dinners to the poor and to the lonely on that particular Christmas day. The child learned through that process and was able to turn around what he was celebrating as what he thought was Christmas and what so often we all think is Christmas, and was able to see that Christmas is in our reaching out to others and giving gift to someone else.
Speaking of gifts, we have a great gift on this program. We're going to be able to hear two beautiful songs from a fellow named Britt Lay, who's a tennis pro and a musician and a husband and father of 3 children. And he's going to sing a song for us that he's written, and we'll sing "They Come From You."
Great.
Song in morning, like a breeze in the night, like the fragrance of flowers, like the spreading of light, like a mist in the meadow, like a cloud in the sky. I don't know where you come from, and I sure don't know. Of children, like the shadows in shade, like the love of a mother, there is nothing that's made, like a flame in the darkness, like a planet in space, like a diamond on velvet, like the smile on face. But it's not so much the things I see that seem so very real to me. It's the way I know you see for me that helps me know you're there. It's a feeling that I can't describe, an ever-present soul alive, a love, a joy, a peace, a life that helps me know I'm home. Like a smile from a stranger, like a kiss from a friend,